Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us today. And first, I want to begin by acknowledging I am joining you from Treaty 6 territory and the traditional lands of the Métis. But I'm also here representing teachers who work on Treaties 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10 territories. We make this land acknowledgement as part of our commitment to reconciliation, our learning, unlearning, and relearning to ensure that we respect the ancestors that have come here before us. Over the course of the year, teachers have been speaking about the increasing needs of students in their classrooms and the lack of support that they have available in order to make sure those needs are supported. We've been talking about triage in our classrooms. And what that looks like is that students aren't getting their needs supported. It means that teachers are having to assess and determine which students get the supports that are available because there simply aren't enough professionals there to ensure all students can see success. We've been calling on the government for predictable and sustainable budgets that make a real investment in our students because we know our students are the future of this province. That call has been echoed by other educational stakeholders as well, including the SSBA, and as recently as yesterday, the president of the SSBA stated those exact same things, that we need predictable, sustainable budgets that ensure school divisions can create the best plans possible for our kids. And the Fraser Institute earlier in the year said that we needed $400 million in order to get us back to where we were in 2012, 2013, when we were first in the country for education funding and when students had supports readily available in order to meet their needs. Unfortunately, on budget day, we saw a real increase of education budget looking at the current school year to our next school year of just only 0.7%, which is just over $10 million and far short of the $400 million that's needed in order to meet the needs of our students and bring us back to first in our country. Divisions started talking about cuts to programs, supports, services, increasing fees to families to cover lunch supervision, or even fundraising through charitable organizations in order to allow these services to continue or to allow some of the services to continue. The Federation, we planned and held a rally for public education, which drew over 3,000 people down to the legislature in Regina to call on the government to ensure that education is a priority and to show that we value public education and we make our kids a priority. Teachers, parents, students, trustees, and concerned citizens all joined us there to hear about the real challenges that are occurring within our schools today. After the budget, we heard from the Premier and the Minister, and although they weren't able to be there, they told us that you have been heard. Well, actions speak louder than words, and $40 million is a clear statement that the realities of education and the realities of classrooms today the message has not been sent to them, and they haven't really listened to what teachers, parents, and students have been talking about over the year and in years past. $40 million in the announcement that was made yesterday is 2% increase to the education funding at a time when enrollment is over 2% and inflation is at 5.2% for Saskatchewan in April. The government says that they've made a record investment, a record spending in education, and while the dollars are higher than they've ever been, it is not a record investment in our kids from our perspective. We know that a result of this budget and the shortfalls of this announcement from yesterday means that kids aren't going to get the supports that they need, and divisions will have to make further cuts in the school year next year. Teachers will continue to do their best, but there's only so much that they can do to ensure that kids are supported in their classrooms when they have classes of upwards of 40 kids or 30 or higher in early elementary years. And when professional supports aren't available and kids have to wait on wait lists for a year or two in order to be assessed to determine what supports would help them be successful. So we've had a rally, we've been talking about all of these challenges. We need to continue to share the realities of today's classrooms with our government and ensure that they understand that these are real concerns and that our kids are a priority to us. We need to continue to advocate so that all students have access to high quality education, including timely access to professional support. So I would encourage parents and members of the public to continue to have their voices heard, whether they're attending a rally like our own, we may have future rallies coming up, or attending MLA or government events in order to have those interests heard by those government officials that are making the decisions about public education. Because public education is important, our kids are important, and they are the future of this province. So thank you for joining us. I take any questions if anyone has any. Shane?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. The money you guys got then in the most recent funding given by the province, does this help at all with anything right now? Because I think last time when I was reviewing the story, it was mainly to combat inflation because everything has gone up, as you know, over the last year.
Yeah, so the funding announcement that came yesterday, that kind of came in two parts. The 20 million was to address the enrollment increases that were unexpected that we saw throughout the current school year. So some divisions will receive some of that money, other divisions may not receive any, depending on what their enrollment is. And then 20 million came as a result of the class size and complexity, and it's to address those issues. And unfortunately, while there may be benefits that we can see, we simply know that it is not enough. Enrollment was above 2%, and $20 million is really only 1% of the education budget. So we know that that is a shortfall. And $20 million, when we're looking at spreading that across 27 different school divisions, it's not even going to be able to equate to enough staff to bring class sizes down to a reasonable size, or ensure that some of the small school divisions don't have to run multi-graded or multi-level classes. And it's not going to ensure that kids get the supports that they need. It's simply not enough when we're looking at a $400 million gap that we've seen in years past.
Thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay. Can you just kind of give what teachers were looking for, or the STF was looking for in terms of numbers from the province? And were you guys, a secondary follow-up is, I guess, is how much consultation was done with teachers, schools, school divisions on the whole, how much money should be increased?
Well, we've been talking about that $400 million gap that has been created, the number that comes from the Fraser Institute. But we need predictable and sustainable budgets that meet and exceed both enrollment and inflation at a bare minimum. And so looking at the increases to education, when we look at year over year, the actual from this year to what's budgeted for next year, we're only seeing about a 2.7% increase as a real increase. And like I said, enrollment is at 2.1%. Inflation right now is at 5.2% in Saskatchewan. And so you add those up, it doesn't add up to 2.7%, and 2.7 falls far short of it. And so at a minimum, we need to ensure that we can maintain the current services that are being provided and ensure further cuts don't happen. But the government also needs to invest in education and start drawing down some of the $400 million gap that we've seen over the last decade. We need to add services into our schools and ensure further cuts don't continue to happen.
Okay, so when you say predictable, like you want a predictable budget, does that mean that things have been unpredictable so far?
Well, where they're getting their numbers from is really not predictable, and where these increases are coming from is not something that's predictable. And so looking at what we're expecting to see as enrollment growth or population growth in Saskatchewan. Our government talks about growth that works for everyone and brags about how Saskatchewan is growing in population and we're bringing people to our province. That's great. We want to see that. But we need to ensure those people that are coming to Saskatchewan have a high quality public education. And if we can predict that they're coming, we should be able to tie that into our education funding. Because when people come to our province, they often come with families and with kids. So we should expect those kids to show up in our schools, and we should expect services to be there for them. And then on top of that, we all have to deal with inflation. So to imagine that inflation doesn't impact education is fairly short-sighted on the side of government. Inflation impacts in every industry, every sector that we see across our province. And so we need to ensure that those budgets are meeting at minimum those two factors to ensure that services can continue to support our students.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Gates?
Yeah, thank you for taking my question. Just your thoughts on the timing of yesterday's announcement. I know school divisions do have to get their budgets into the ministry by the end of June, and obviously it kind of leaves them, a little less than a month now. So just your thoughts on that.
Well, I also said that we want to see these increases come in the provincial budget. And if we can provide $40 million extra for education today or yesterday on June 1st, why wasn't that money there in March when the budget was announced? It's not like we have new revenue, although they do have new revenue, but they had $1 billion surplus in March. And so why are we only seeing $40 million? Why are we only seeing it as of yesterday? Why is that not included in the budget where it is sustainable, regular amounts that are coming that divisions can count on an annual basis? So the fact that we're seeing it now, it's likely reactive to the rally, which is great to see that they've reacted and they've provided some sort of action. But it's, like I said, it's just not enough. And then, sorry, you had a second question.
No, that was the only question I had. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't see any other questions at this time, but I just want to again thank everyone for joining us here today. As I said, I truly believe that Saskatchewan can be first in our country for education. We have the professionals, we have the resources here in Saskatchewan. We simply just need a government that makes it a priority through their decision and through their budget making. We at the Federation and teachers are committed to working together with government and education stakeholders to find solutions that ensure every child in Saskatchewan can see success in their pre-K to 12 public education. So I just, again, encourage everyone to continue sharing those stories, continue sharing the realities of schools and students' experiences in Saskatchewan, and share your concerns with your MLAs. So again, whether you're attending events or if you want to share your stories through our advocacy email or through Tell Them Tuesday, there's lots of opportunities to have your voice heard and ensure that our MLAs and government start making education a priority here. Thank you.